Imagine a place where indulgence knew no limits. A city so rich and powerful that its people believed they were untouchable. But behind the shimmering walls and golden feasts, something far darker festered. A moral collapse so severe, it invited divine destruction. In this video, you're not just going to hear a story. You're going to experience the rise and catastrophic fall of two of the most infamous cities in history. You'll see how greed, pride, and perversion didn't just lead to collapse, they invited judgment. And here's why this matters. The lessons of Sodom and Gomorrah echo today louder than ever. As we face a world driven by vanity and excess, this story isn't just historical, it's prophetic. Are we on the same path? Stay with me to the end, because what you'll hear might change how you view power, purpose, and divine justice. If you believe morality still matters, like this video right now, let's spread this truth. They walked on streets paved with luxury, wrapped in fabrics imported from the farthest empires, and spoke with the confidence of those who believed the world revolved around them. In Sodom and Gomorrah, wealth was not just abundant, it was endless. Every corner glimmered with opulence, every hall echoed with laughter soaked in wine. Yet under the surface of this glittering paradise was a rot so deep, it would eventually consume them all. Their riches made them blind. Their status made them arrogant, and their hearts hardened beyond repair. It's easy to admire the external beauty of a place like this, but true character is revealed not in how it shines, but in how it treats its weakest. Imagine walking through the bustling marketplaces, golden bracelets stacked high, servants running through alleys with baskets of spices, music playing from rooftop gardens where nobles dined under the stars. But as you turn a corner, the scene shifts. A child begs for bread, a widow is mocked and shoved aside. No one stops. No one cares. This was the real Sodom, a city where the poor starved beside overflowing tables, where injustice wasn't just tolerated, it was institutionalized. What kind of society can thrive where compassion is dead? What future can exist in a place where the soul of man is traded for a coin? This was not just economic inequality. This was a culture of cruelty disguised in gold. There were no consequences in Sodom, at least that's what they thought. The powerful rewrote the rules in their favor. Judges took bribes as easily as they drank wine. Merchants lied on weights, sold diluted oils, and cheated without blinking. If you had no status, your voice meant nothing. If you had no wealth, your rights were non-existent. But isn't this what happens when greed becomes God? When truth is no longer valued, when justice is auctioned off, when the sacred is sacrificed for the sake of pleasure, destruction isn't far behind. They didn't know it yet, but they were digging their own graves with every dishonest trade, every ignored cry, every child left behind. The nights in Sodom were long and wild. The sun would set, and the city would erupt, not into violence, but into celebration. Drunken parades, forbidden rituals, fire dancers, temples where sacred vows meant nothing, and gods were invented to justify every form of pleasure. Imagine a place where there were no boundaries, no shame, no conscience. A place where "do what you want" wasn't a whisper, it was a law. The people didn't believe in accountability, not to man, and certainly not to any god. And this is the trap of hedonism. It promises freedom, but delivers bondage. When nothing is sacred, everything becomes meaningless. Even life. Families were not built on love in Sodom. They were built on convenience, control, and power. Marriages were transactions. Children were seen as assets or burdens depending on the day. Women were possessions to be discarded when they no longer entertained. If you were poor, your daughter could be sold. If you were rich, you could own 10 wives and still chase the wives of others. And if you dared speak of fidelity, of honor, of truth, you were laughed at, silenced, or worse. This wasn't just a culture in decline. It was a culture at war with virtue itself. And if the family, the core of any society, is corrupted, how long can the civilization stand? Strangers were not welcomed in Sodom. Hospitality, which in many ancient cultures was sacred, was inverted here. Foreigners were mocked, hunted, and abused, not because they posed a threat, but because they were vulnerable. Here, cruelty was entertainment. The more helpless the victim, the greater the thrill. This wasn't survival of the fittest. It was domination of the defenseless. It revealed a truth few want to admit. How a society treats outsiders reflects the true state of its soul. And when that soul is darkened by pride and void of empathy, destruction is not a question of if, but when. Still think this is just ancient history. But here's what really sealed their fate. They didn't just ignore God, they mocked him. The people of Sodom saw their wealth as proof that they were favored. They mistook prosperity for immunity. They believed that because they hadn't been punished, they never would be. It's a dangerous delusion, one we still see today. If I'm successful, I must be right. But history has a way of humbling even the mightiest. When morality collapses, when corruption becomes culture, and when evil is normalized, judgment follows. Maybe not immediately, but it comes. And it came for Sodom, fast, furious, and final. The day the end began, no one suspected a thing. The markets opened. Priests prepared offerings to their pagan gods. Laughter filled the air, and music drifted across the rooftops. It was just another morning in paradise, but heaven had other plans. That night, two strangers arrived, unnoticed by most, but not by all. They were messengers, but not the kind the city was used to. They carried no gold, no scrolls, only a divine assignment, and they found refuge in the house of one man, one righteous man, a man named Lot. While others partied, he listened. While others mocked, he feared. He knew something was coming, something terrible. Soon, the stranger's presence sparked rage. Crowds gathered outside Lot's home, demanding he hand them over. Not to question, not to welcome, but to defile. These were not people acting out of curiosity. They were acting out of entitlement, lust, and raw evil. Lot pleaded. He begged. But the mob laughed. Then, in a moment that silenced the chaos, a blinding light exploded from the doorway. The crowd fell, stunned and blinded. Justice had entered the scene, and it was no longer patient. The strangers revealed their true nature. They were angels, sent to execute judgment. The time for warnings had passed. Now came the reckoning. With urgency, the angels told Lot to gather his family. Leave. Escape. Don't look back. The command was simple, the stakes absolute. But Lot hesitated. His daughters hesitated. Even his wife couldn't let go. Isn't it human nature to cling to what's familiar, even if it's killing us? That city was everything they had known, their home, their identity, their comfort zone. But when comfort comes from compromise, it becomes a cage. And when God says go, staying is rebellion. That night, Lot took the hands of his loved ones and ran. Behind them, the sky began to change. The winds shifted. The heavens roared. Then it happened. Fire fell. Not metaphorical fire, not poetic symbolism, but real, consuming fire from above. Brimstone rained from the sky. Palaces crumbled. Markets exploded. Temples turned to ash. The screams of the proud were drowned in the fury of divine judgment. Rich or poor, slave or free, all perished the same. The city's beauty was gone in an instant. Its luxury could not save it. Its arrogance could not defend it. And its people, who had once danced in defiance, now ran in desperation. But there was no escape. Because you cannot outrun the consequences of a life lived without conscience. As Lot's family ran, one act would define the tragedy forever. His wife turned back. Just a glance. A moment of longing for the world she had left behind. And in that instant, she was gone. Turned into a pillar of salt, frozen by the very judgment she tried to resist. This is the cost of hesitation. The price of a divided heart. When you're called to a new life, looking back is fatal. Her story is a warning for all of us. You can't hold on to the past while stepping into the future. You can't serve two kingdoms. You can't love the darkness and expect to escape the fire. Choose wisely, or lose everything. When the flames died, nothing remained. The once glorious cities were now a wasteland. Smoke filled the sky. The ground was scorched. Ashes blew through the ruins where music once played. Silence. No celebration. No laughter. Only the memory of what was, and the realization of what could have been. What destroyed Sodom wasn't just sin. It was pride, selfishness, cruelty, and refusal to change. Their downfall wasn't sudden. It was built brick by brick, choice by choice, over years. That's what makes their story so terrifying, because it shows how slow, silent compromise leads to total collapse. And now, the story turns to us. This isn't just a tale from thousands of years ago. This is a mirror, a warning, a call, because the same forces that destroyed Sodom are alive today, disguised in new forms, celebrated in new languages, justified by new excuses. But truth hasn't changed, God hasn't changed, and consequences haven't disappeared. If we ignore the past, we repeat it. If we silence conscience, we invite chaos. So here's the real question. Will we be a generation that humbles itself, or one that perishes in its pride? The choice is still ours, but time is not. And if you're ready to dive into a story of decadence, destruction, and divine reckoning, let's begin. Sodom and Gomorrah were not destroyed in a single day. They collapsed from within, long before the fire fell. Their fall was the result of hearts that hardened, truth that was silenced, and a people who chose pleasure over purpose. And now we must ask ourselves, are we walking that same path? Are we trading our values for convenience? Are we closing our eyes while the fire builds beneath us? This is not just about ancient cities. It's about modern hearts. It's about every time we choose selfishness over service, pride over humility, darkness over light. What happened to Sodom is a warning written in the ashes of their arrogance. But it's also a call, a divine invitation to live differently, to choose compassion, to pursue justice, to walk in truth even when the world mocks it. If you believe it's time to stand for something greater than yourself, then take the first step. Turn away from a culture that praises corruption and glorifies sin. Choose the narrow road, the one that leads to life, even when it's unpopular. Choose repentance over rebellion, mercy over mockery, eternity over momentary pleasure. Inscreva-se no canal e siga Jesus. Not just with words, but with action. Don't just scroll to the next video. Don't just nod and move on. Decide, right now, that your life will be a light in the darkness, that you will be the difference this world is desperate for, that you won't wait for judgment to start seeking truth. And if this message spoke to your heart, leave a comment below. My trust is in God, not in riches. Let that be your declaration. Let the world know where you stand. Together we can build a community that stands on truth, even when everything else falls. My name is Oliver. I'm not a theologian. I'm not a scholar. I'm just someone who refuses to stay silent in a world that's losing its way. I believe truth matters. I believe you matter. And I believe God is still calling people back to Him, one heart at a time. Thank you for spending this time with me. I don't take it lightly. You could have been anywhere, watching anything, but you chose to listen. That means more than you know. Until next time, stay strong, stay humble, and never forget, even in a world like Sodom, light can still shine. I'll see you in the next video.